Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IVOrganics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're going to be talking about grafting olives and the benefits of doing so. And behind me I've already got what's my 2-in-1 olive, but by the time we're done with this video it's going to be a 3-in-1 olive. And I'm going to discuss the varieties that we've got as well. The benefits, firstly, I want to share with you in regards to grafting your olives is some olives benefit, even though most olives are self-fruitful, meaning one olive tree can produce fruit by itself, by having a cross-pollinated, which means another olive variety. Not the same olive variety, otherwise this benefit won't exist in your garden. But by having a second variety of olive, you'll have the ability to cross-pollinate these two plants and increase generally the size of the fruit and the yields of the fruit as well. Instead of planting 3 varieties of olives and losing the space of what we've got in our garden, which is limited, and that's another benefit of gardening, is I'm going to have one rootstock supporting 3 varieties of olives, and each of those branches are all going to support its own flavor of olives as well. By being on the same rootstock, the flavor between the varieties won't cross as some people believe. So let's check out what we've got going on here behind me. Follow me. Exit. So the parent plant, which is this over here, is the manzanillo, also the manzanilla, Spanish cultivar of olives, and this was originated as a cutting from the plant, so it's a genetically identical plant to the original parent manzanilla olive tree, and it has created several branches all around this particular rootstock. And what we did was, several months ago, we grafted it with this variety of olive over here. If you want to come in a little closer, and you can see it says olive Hojiblanca. And the Hojiblanca is one of the top 3 Spanish varieties. The Manzanillo or Manzanilla olive tree is the second most one of the world's most popular varieties. So Manzanilla, close to number 1. Hojiblanca, top 3 Spanish varieties. And the third olive tree we're going to bring into this tree is called the Toscana olive, which is from Italy. So we're going to get all of these olives from pretty much all around the world, growing right here in Los Angeles, California. And let me share with you the graft that we did. And I'm glad many of you viewers were asking me for the update on what's going on, but this is so long overdue, and now here we are at the first week of March. And this plant is going to, continue to expand and grow. And as you can see over here, my ties that I've done to the plant are just a little bit too constricting. So come and take a look at what's going on. This here is the grafted branch that was grafted onto this rootstock. So the manzanilla rootstock is behind it, and this is the Hojiblanca in front of it. And if you take a look, you can see that some of these ties have gone into the wood as the wood is expanding and having grafted. Procedurally, when getting to this stage, keep in mind, as we've discussed in other videos, that it takes on average about 6 to 8 weeks for the graft union to happen. We've left this on for, I'd say, almost 4 to 6 months, which is so long overdue. And at this point, it's being constricting on the plant and interfering with the flow of the sugars and the waters through the stem. But procedurally, what you're supposed to be doing, and what I should have been doing, is visiting the plant every month and cutting back on, this here is the stem that is supporting the sugars going up the manzanilla, and I've been cutting it back from this point and taking it back gradually, encouraging the growth. And now I'm going to take it all the way back, but encouraging all of the sugars from the rootstock to go into the grafted union. And then what I could have also been doing after the 6 to 8 week point is I could have started cutting back on the stem gradually, like so, and then just taking a couple of snips at it once a week or every other week until eventually severing the 2 off. And now this Hojiblanca plant can be removed. Let's just take that off of its stake here, which was holding it in place. And now we've got Hojiblanca olives growing on top of the manzanilla olive. And now we'll just cut off all of these extra ties because it's just way too tight. And we're just going to cut it off all the way down. And you're going to see how constricted it's been on it. Here we go. And there we go. And you can see how that's healed. They've completely calloused into one another, like so. And what we're going to do next, you may notice that there's some cracks on this wood up above if you're coming around. What I'm gonna do now is take my IVOrganics product, which is right here. The concept of painting your plants goes back hundreds if not thousands of years. This is IVOrganics. It's a 3-in-1 plant guard where you just add water, protection against damaging sunburn and insects and rodents for use on roses, fruit, nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. And it's a non-toxic, environmentally safe and organic product. And you can see this is what the product looks like when you add water to it. The benefit is that it's an organic paint, and it's got the benefit of all these beneficial oils, which are castor oil, cinnamon oil, clove oil, cedarwood oil, garlic oil, peppermint oil, and rosemary oil, all of which individually help repel insects. And the goal is to seal all of these cracked and exposed surfaces. So I'm just gonna go here with my brush and seal not only the pruned surface to keep that sealed, but I'm also gonna seal the graft union as well, like so, to make sure that no pests get behind it or into it, and that's just going to heal. And you can see that the entire bark, this was coated maybe about 6 to 8 months ago with the IVOrganics. I can reapply it to keep the entire stem cooler as we're now gonna go into a hot spring and a hot summer. And I'll just work my way to the bottom of the stem. Let me share with you how we accomplish what this is called now is approach grafting. If you've got the ability to put, a separate plant that you want to graft onto it next to the parent plant, then you'll do what's called approach grafting. But if you can, you've got to get your olive branch from somewhere else, and you can just take a piece off of it, and then you got to graft it. That's a process known as cleft grafting. I'm going to put the video links to those down below so you can see how we use cleft grafting on an apple as well as on a fig that we did here in the backyard. Let's now do the approach grafting on the olive and show you the steps on what it's going to take to accomplish it. So if you come in a little closer, what I'm trying to target here, if you take a look at the very top of what was once a very large branch right up here, the tree trunk, you can see that there's some nooks and crannies right at the top, and I'm trying to seal all of those. I don't know if you see that right in here, like a little indentation that runs between the wood and the bark. I just want to seal that in all the way around, and also right into the graft union as well. We're just trying to seal it to basically repel and keep any insects out of it. We're also keeping the graft union a lot cooler by doing so. And I'm just going down the trunk like so, but then I come across these branches that are newly sprouted off the side of the trunk, and I've been battling to control where these branches are coming out. As you can already see, I've got branch number 1, branch number 2, branch number 3, and this branch number 4 that's coming down the middle. But these branches, if I were to allow them, they're running parallel to these already existing branches. So I'm gonna get them out of the way. And eventually the suckers will be less vigorous, but you can see I'm also pruning it all the way to the tree trunk. I'm just gonna cut that off like so. And I'm gonna take off all these other little suckers on the side. And the smallest ones I can just rub out with my finger. There that goes, and the next one. And then we'll just go with our brush and continue sealing the tree. I'm going to go in more detail with that later. And when it comes to color choices, it doesn't necessarily have to be white. IVOrganics comes in 3 color choices, and let me show you those real quick. So IVOrganics comes in 3 color choices. We're using color white right now, which if you come in a little closer, I want to share this as well. You can see that the product's also registered material for use in organic agriculture. So we've got color white. It's also available in colors green and brown. So you've got 3 colors, and the way the product comes when you open it is it comes with the organic like paint powder, and then it comes with this bubble wrapped oil vial, which I'll show you here. And these oil vials contain all of the oils that are in this active ingredients again, which I'll repeat to you, is castor oil, cinnamon oil, clove oil, cedarwood oil, garlic oil, peppermint oil, and rosemary oil. And you would just basically fill this up with water with the oil and the paint solution in here, and you'd have a pint of ready to go organic paint. And you can also get a ready to use spray as well. So it comes in the spray bottle option as well. And if you go to install like any plants, for example, or you're installing a tree, this applies also for your tomatoes, peppers, anything else. You can also spray the leaves at the time of transplant, and you'll also create an organic foliar spray that helps keep your plants cooler. You can see all these like little dots that are on it. It's hard to see in this one, but it's actually creating a very light white film to keep your plants several degrees cooler. And even in the spring when it's not brutally hot, it's still keeping your plants cooler, so it's not so sun stressed. Let's continue on with the grafting. Check this out. And so now the Hoji Blanca olive that is grafted on top of the manzanilla, I just want to share with you, if you're coming a little closer, you can see where the tree trunk is. Eventually, the Hoji Blanca that's grafted on top is going to grow and expand over this pruned branch. The process is going to take at least 2, 3, and possibly up to 5 years. Eventually, this branch will be as big as that trunk that it's on, and then it'll look completely natural. An example I want to share with you is this over here. And here you'll see an example of what I did a couple of years ago. I saved this, being this here was a seedling Hawaiian guava variety that I grafted onto a 2 to 3 year old white guava. And you can see over here is the tree trunk that's right in there. Let me point at it with my scissors. So you can see this was the tree trunk. I cut it and grafted it on the back side, and then eventually the callus tissue, which is created by the cambium layer, expanded and grew over this tree trunk. And you can see in a couple more years, had this been in the ground, it would have completely enveloped the lower trunk, and it would have all been just the pink guava, which was again resting on the white guava that was grafted onto. So this here is actually a process called piggyback grafting, and I'll share a link to that below. And I'm gonna have a follow-up with a piggyback grafted lime. We did a lime on an unknown citrus cultivar as our rootstock. So I'm gonna use this as an example to see how you can start it and watch that successfully be done as well. But let's continue doing the approach grafting. I'm gonna do another approach grafting example for you right now. We're gonna use now the Toscana olive variety. And what I'm gonna do is I'm keeping the stake here, and I'm going to, we're now gonna take this Toscana Italian variety of olive and graft it onto this Manzanillo olive branch. So we are going to put this pot in place. I'm keeping the stake here so I can secure the pot and make sure it doesn't move while it's being healed and grafted on. So I'm gonna also prepare the soil to create a little bit of a pocket for this pot to rest in. I'm then gonna take my twine and I'm going to secure it against the stake, like so. And again, whenever I use a stake, I always tie the knot against the stake so it's not too constricting against the plant. And we're just gonna position that in place like so. And we'll tighten that. And that'll rest like there. Okay. And so we're just gonna position the pot. I'm trying to make sure I've got it in a position where I can still get some water into here, because I'm gonna have to separately care for and water this plant. And now it's gonna be this branch that I'm going to graft onto using the approach grafting method onto this branch over here. So that's where it's gonna go, and the materials we're gonna use are right over here. So to get started, I've got my rubbing alcohol, I've got a plastic bag, and again, I'm just recycling a pita bread bag. Doesn't matter what kind of plastic you use, and the goal is to retain the moisture into our graft zone. And then I've got a napkin, and here are my blades. I'm just gonna take one of these blades, and I'm going to sterilize it using the rubbing alcohol. So just going like that, and clean it off. When it comes to grafting, you're gonna wanna make sure that your surfaces are very clean, because any contaminants can grow and ultimately affect the graft if it comes into contact. So we want to keep this as clean as possible, and what we're going to do now is make a decision in regards to where we're going to graft these two plants. I'm using my fishing twine. When it comes, you've got some choices. You can use twine just as we've used earlier. But my preference is actually using fishing twine. If you take a look over here, some people are asking what pound test are you using. I'm using 10, but even at 10, it sometimes breaks as I'm tightening it around the plant. So maybe 15, 20 pound test would be a little safer, but this is the largest pound test that I've got. And I'm just gonna take my blade here and cut that. And I'm just going to secure my knot against the plant from now before I pick the spot I'm going to graft. So I'm just tying that loosely. And what we're gonna do here is we're going to determine now where we're gonna graft these two branches together. And my goal is to get as low as I can on this branch. If you take a look, you can see that it's about half the width of a pencil, and this one here is a little bit wider than a pencil. And we're gonna line these two together around this point over here, like so. So that's gonna be the zone that I'm gonna graft it. So the first thing I'm gonna do here is cut into the rootstock. I'm gonna cut this branch out of the way as well. So let's go here with my scissors and make sure there's no branches and no leaves on the zone so that it doesn't interfere with my grafting procedure. And so again, I'm gonna line these up and I'm gonna see where these two are gonna line up with one another. So let's do that. I can already see that this one over here has got a node that's in the way. I wanna make that a little more flush. So I'm gonna go here with my pruners again, and I'm gonna cut this back like so. And that's a lot smoother so that it can come in contact and that node won't interfere with the graft. What we're gonna do now is just go with our blade. Again, I've got it cleaned off with the rubbing alcohol. And we're now going to cut into what's gonna be the rootstock manzanilla olive. So we're gonna cut right in here. And the goal is to cut about halfway into the stem. We're gonna try to get halfway into it, not past halfway point, and then about a half an inch to an inch long. So here we go. Just zigzagging back and forth down the stem. And that'll be it. That's about an inch long. So now I'm gonna line up again the manzanilla. And that's gonna come in contact right here. So from this point where my thumb is up, I'm gonna cut into it about a half an inch. So now I'm coming in this way. And we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut now into desired flavor of what's the Toscana olive. We're gonna align these together like so. And right where my thumb is, I'm now gonna cut up the Toscana olive. I'm gonna remove these couple of leaves that may be in the way. And I'm gonna remove these bottom leaves. And now we're just gonna cut up. Again, let me align that. So right from my finger, we're gonna cut up. And the goal is to go about an inch in length and to go about halfway into the wood. And there we go. That should do it. So half of that's gonna create the union. The other half is gonna continue supporting the waters and the sugars to the top of this branch as these two heal and become one. So we'll just fit those together like so. And the goal is to get the cambium tissues from one of the stems in line with the cambium tissues of the other plant. And you can see that we've now got a beautiful union between these two plants, even though there's no union on the back side. We only need one side of these plants to align in order for this graft to succeed. So we're just gonna push that in place and now secure it with the twine. So we're just gonna go around like so. Once the graft is in place, I typically wrap it around 3 times. So we'll count 1, 2, 3, and then I'll tighten it about as tight as I can go without tearing into the tissues nor cutting the twine. 2, 3, and tighten. 1, 2, 3, and tighten. 1, 2, 3, and then just basically secure it in place. Entire knot, and when it comes to grafting your plants, one of the main tips and the thing that most grafting professionals are looking for is to keep the union moist. And they typically accomplish this by wrapping it with a grafting tape or tar. And they'll use a variety of different materials in order to trap and secure the moisture. But something I've been doing successfully since I was probably 13 or 14 years of age is just using a damp cloth. If the goal is moisture, let's keep it moist. So what I'm doing is just taking this napkin and I'm just wetting it like so. And I'm just gonna wrap the grafting union with the napkin like so. So you can see here, this is the graft. Coming a little closer so you can see that this side of the scion wood, which is the desired flavor, is in contact with what's going to become the rootstock. And then the back side, if you come around, you can see is now in place. Let's take a look here with the camera. So you can see here that that's now bound and sealed. And now we're just going to wrap that wound with the napkin, and with the goal of keeping the moisture there, we're just going to take now our plastic bag and wrap it like so. And to make sure that the bag stays in place, we'll take our twine again and just basically secure it loosely. There's no need to put it on too tight. The goal is to keep the moisture in there for at least the next few weeks. The graft between the two plants will occur within, on average, 3 weeks, and it should be ready to prune, just as we did at the beginning of the video, in about so the two plants will heal generally in about 3 weeks, and within about 6 to 8 weeks you should be able to separate and remove the potted plant graft from the grafted wood. So let's just wrap that up real quick. So that's in place. This is just coincidental, but if you take a look at the colors of the bag, and we just grafted the Toscana olive variety, we've got the colors of the Italian flag on this particular variety. That was just coincidental again. So we've just completed it. The last step before we conclude, I'm now going to take the rootstock, which is grafted from above our scion wood, which is the desired flavor, and I'm going to cut this down significantly. I'm going to cut this branch off, I'm going to cut this branch off, and I'm going to cut this branch off. And what I'm doing is I'm telling this plant to swell up and start growing up in here, and hopefully forcing that additional growth into the grafted union. And then what I'm going to do with the rest of the plant from the scion wood, which this here is the Toscana variety, to increase the vigor going into the desired flavor, I'm going to start cutting back on the rest of this plant. And so I'm just going to cut some of these branches back like so. And I know this looks quite dramatic, but the plant is still very much alive. It will sprout and continue to grow, but I'm trying to convince the plant to put all of your time, energy, and resources into this grafted union. I'll still have a second potted plant, as we did with this, that can then be grafted another place in the garden, which I'm just donating these plants to other people within the community. So we'll just keep on cutting back like so. And we're done. And now we've got our Hoji Blanca olive tree, we've got a Toscana olive tree, and then we've got our Manzanilla olive tree. So we're gonna ultimately end up with a 3-in-1 olive tree variety, all growing on just one single rootstock. So if you've enjoyed this gardening video by IVOrganics, be sure to like it, and most importantly, by subscribing below, you'll be connected to all these other educational videos. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening.